Cumberland School Department Health and Wellness Committee on April 6th at 4:34 p.m. In accordance with Governor McKee's Executive Order 21-21 dated March 3rd, 2021, the Cumberland School Committee intends to conduct this meeting remotely. The public can participate in this meeting remotely, but not in person, by calling 1-646-558-8656. Webinar ID is 964-1913-6121. Or for additional details and to join online, you can see the events calendar on the district website. All right, so first on the agenda for today, I'm sorry, I just gave out the wrong, I did. I was set, I was ready to go. There we go, okay. So up first on the agenda, we have approval of the minutes. I did send those out just a few minutes ago. Again, I apologize for sending the incorrect subcommittee meeting minutes. Those are out in your mailboxes now. Does anyone have any questions, or do I have a motion to approve those minutes from the last Health and Wellness Subcommittee meeting on the 1st?
Motion to approve.
Thanks. All right, Ms. Patton has a motion. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Malcolm. All right, all in favor of approving the minutes? Aye, great. All opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Okay, next or first on the agenda for today, after the approval of minutes, Dr. Santa is going to give us a quick update on a potential plan for screening and determination of the tiers of service for this coming year, correct?
Yep,
So
I
I'll
got
turn
it.
it over to Dr. Santa.
Hello, everybody. So we were looking for a tool on how to proactively look at our students' SEL growth, not just because of COVID, but even before COVID. I've had many things come into my mailbox or in my email box, I should say. And most of the things are they're just trying to get our ESSER money. Like we'll show you how to spend your ESSER money, right? But I was looking, nothing really met the need of what I was looking for until I found this product called Satchel Pulse, P-U-L-S-C, like taking the pulse. And it's set up very much like how our STAR data and our STAR screening is set up. So if you know how our STAR system works, where we do the universal screening and then it disaggregates kids into different tiers of support, and then we provide intervention. It does this but in the SEL realm. Unlike the Swiss data, which I do think has a purpose, the Swiss data is very reactive, though. It's based on teachers referring. And if the teacher doesn't refer, you don't have your Swiss data. Or if you don't have those office referrals. Instead, what it does is asks the teachers to answer a couple of questions related to the CASEL's SEL standards, the social emotional learning standards. There's 5 questions, and they're asked to answer those twice a year. If there is an area in those 5 areas that are flagged, then there's additional diagnostic questions that are asked, that just goes deeper into that standard. If the student can read, so about 3rd grade or so up, they're able to actually take it themselves. And then when the data gets disaggregated, very similar to STAR, it tells us what tiers the students are at. And one of the tiers that will alert is if the teacher rates the student different than they relate themselves. Either the student rates themselves lower or higher. It's going to pick up that differentiation. Puts into tiers. Unlike STAR, though, you are able to move kids in within the tiers. It's going to give you a suggestion. Once you have those tiers, it also gives you suggestions for interventions, including more customizable interventions. So you're not stuck with just what they suggest. We can add our own things that we typically do here, check in, check out. We do zones of regulation. We do all these other types of interventions, which are very much part of the intervention program that they recommend. For the older students, there are many videos that talk about specific subject areas with some reflection questions, and there's some materials along those lines. We've looked at this. I'm actually going to talk about it with the mental health workers tomorrow in their clinical consult. I've given a demo to Jim and Katie, and because I felt like they're really key people that work in all of our schools and would really have a good idea. And I'm really going to strongly encourage that we adopt this as a model of proactive approach of looking at our students. How we implement it, for anyone on the meeting that's panicking, we're not going to be implementing everything all at once. We can't possibly do that. We're going to roll it out and take a look at it, and look at where we're at in each tier as we go. So that's essentially the pulse system that we're looking at. Many of you might have heard me talk about this in the meeting. We're discussing ESSER the other day because it is being funded through the ESSER funds. And this is not a 1 year only thing. We were able to, the grant is a 3-year grant, but I was able to, we were able to split up a 5-year contract with it in 3 chunks so that we can pay it in the 3 years, but have it for 5 years. So, because I always get concerned of implementing something that then is quickly gone, right? We need to be able to sustain it. And this way we have it for the minimum of that 5 years that really can build upon and not have to do everything in 1 year, but also know that we do all this work and then it's on the next. So are there any questions about that? I know I just kind of gave you kind of a briefer review. The visuals are really nice. It does the colors, just like we think, very, very similar to STAR. The company is actually out of the UK, where 30% of the schools in the UK use this type of a system.
Dr. Santa, does it
Yeah.
take the place of or include, like when we normally do the connections survey? Is that like something it would address? What we normally address with that?
We're going to have to take a look. Actually, we were talking about whether or not we would still do the connection survey, or would this take the place? I'm not sure, because the connection survey asks different questions. The questions asked on this particular survey are directly related to, I mean, connections is about, do you have an adult that you trust in the building and things like that. The Castle standards are not written quite that way, and that the questions are related to that. So we'd have to take a quicker look to see either if we can incorporate it, because we don't want people doing too many things, right? We want to be as systematic as possible. So that decision has not been made until we really look at the content of the questions. And I don't see it necessarily taking the place of Swiss. I just don't find just using Swiss data particularly effective, because it's always after the fact. Something has happened. It's based on someone referring the child. And I know of many teachers who have said, oh, I don't refer because I don't want to have to go to target team. The other issue is we don't necessarily pick up our internalizing kids, our kids that are more internal versus external.
But at the middle level, we don't use Swiss for referrals at all, but we're using it just for check in, check out. So that's good data to have in terms of like time, place, frequency of.
Oh yeah, I still see that as having a purpose. I'm just saying we have to look at in conjunction with. I absolutely see the problem, because what the Swiss data helps us identify is where's the problem areas in the school.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it happens to be lunch period number 2. So what is going on in lunch period number 2? Or it's the hallway down by the science class or whatever. It helps us to identify those things, but it doesn't necessarily more consistently identify more internal social emotional problems students are having. So that's why I was looking for something to augment what we have. And actually, Frank, I've been looking for a couple of years. And then this came across my desk, which I'm very happy about. Yeah.
Dr. Santa, would it be K through or pre-K through 12? Okay.
Yeah. Just we just know that obviously pre-K 1 and 2 are probably not reading.
Mm-hmm.
So the kids are going to take it themselves too. Again, once they can read. There was some question, and I'll have to ask them. We have a great contact for helping to implement. He's just really, really knowledgeable, and has been a principal, a special ed director. So he understands schools, and he's in the US, not the UK. So that's also helpful. We can ask, the question, we asked the question whether or not we could read it to some of the kids. So like if we had a student that we're concerned about, could someone pull them aside and read it to them and just see how they answer? Similar to what we do some of the more, when we're doing cognitive evaluations or rating scales. So we don't have an exact answer in that, but we'll have to say. We wouldn't do that with every kid, because I think that'd be entirely too time consuming. Are there other questions? I'm happy to show more once when we're working onto the implementation stage and taking a look at that. I am looking for feedback. I am looking, it's not like we're just gonna plow this in. We have to really talk about it in phases. We always have the concern because we don't have a lot of mental health workers. So who does the work, right? So a lot of this can be classroom lessons.
No. Dr. Santa, are you anticipating a big increase in the number of tier 2 and tier 2 students next year?
You
or
know
students
what?
changing tiers?
You know, Amy, I think that's a fantastic question. You know, I may be going out on a limb and saying, no, I don't think we're going to see a huge increase. I think kids are much more resilient. I'm much more concerned about adults at this particular time than I am about the majority of kids. That being said, I think we're going to have much more trouble with our school avoiders. So we've had school avoiders who've now been on distance learning, who've now not really been distance learning. Now they're coming back to school. I think we may have some issues around learning gaps when kids have learning gaps and how that makes kids feel. So those components I think we'll have. So I'm not saying we're not going to have any social emotional issues. I just don't think the doomsday it's going to be so extreme is really as realistic as we are with the day-to-day getting kids to get back engaged, to get back into routines, to help our K kids who probably have not had a lot of them have not had a preschool experience, understand what school's about. Separation from parents because they've now been with their family, you know, for an entire year. I think those are more the issues that we're going to have, but I do know kids are very resilient. And once they get into that routine, I think things are going to will be okay. I think we'll be okay.
And can I just ask a really simple question, but I don't have the knowledge yet and everyone else here probably does. And I'm still learning the terminology, but for the ELL students?
MLL.
I was close.
That's the new. Multilingual learners, yes.
Okay, thank you. For the MLL students, is this going to be able to be used by them as well? Is there a situation or something set up for that? Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, simple, but everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's not done by parents. There's not a parent component. So that the parent referral process will be the same, but there is components for our teachers and our students. Yeah. I'm pretty excited by it, actually.
It sounds like a good resource and tool to have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the tool is the tool, the interventions is the key, but it does help us to, I think, be a little more pinpoint. And there are also things that kids can do independently, like the older kids can do, like a little video lesson. And this is another thing too, the materials aren't cheesy. In the SEL world, very quickly these materials get super corny and cheesy, and the older kids are like, oh good god. You know, they roll their eyes, and really legitimately they should, because they're cheesy and corny, and you know, like the after school special type version of my world. So what I found is the materials aren't like that. They are very like straightforward, but they're written, you know, with good language, and you know, not treating kids like they're you know, subpar or babies, you know. So I think that's also an advantage of making sure we have high quality materials. All right, I'm happy to share when we get more and more of this going down the line.
Definitely, I think we'd all like to hear more. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions for Dr. Santa? All right, well, thank you so much, Dr. Santa. We look forward to hearing more about that.
Sure.
Okay.
My pleasure.
Okay, next on the agenda is the review of the Google Doc of resources for teachers and staff. That was, you should have all received access to that last week. Karen, I don't know if I sent it to you, but if not, I can send it to you.
Can I just ask, Amy, is it in the Google folder?
I believe Ms. Shabbat put it in the drive, but I'm not sure.
I'm not finding it there, but I'm not.
I can send it to you. I'll share it with you right now. So that was sent out a couple of days ago, last week. And okay, I just shared it with you. And we did have a whole bunch of mental health resources. Thank you, Dr. Santa, for filling a whole bunch of those in. I had put in the 2 school-based resources that I recalled from the meeting, the Cumberland Hill Elementary Walking Club and the BF Norton Book Club that they have. But just a reminder that it is there. I split it up into mental health resources. I did one for physical health resources. I know people had said, and this even could overlap with local resources that I think someone had said yoga classes that were being offered for teachers or anything along those lines. So I just kind of broke it into different categories. But once we get some more resources, if you know of any to put in there for teachers and staff and administrators, then we can figure out how to distribute that and hopefully make it a document that all of the teachers and staff administrators in the district can access. As I said, we have a bunch of the mental health resources, but there's also physical, online, local. I did Massachusetts and Rhode Island since we are so close, and then school-based resources. So I can send that link out again if anyone needs it, but please feel free to input any resources that you know of. If you know of a business that's offering, again, a discount on yoga or health resources or, I don't know, kickboxing or any nutrition, anything. Mr. Blanchard might know some sports type of things that are available. But yes, so once that's filled out some more, we can send that out to teachers. And if you have any ideas that are going on in your local schools as well, anything that you are doing, please feel free to put them on the specific school-based resources. So do I have any questions about that right now? No. Okay, so that is there. Please let me know if you need a link to it and I can send it to you to be filled in. Under that, we are going to do a really quick overview of the scorecard that we received from WellSat. I sent it all to you earlier today because it didn't occur to me to send it before today because I'm still onboarding myself. But basically, I thought I could give you, probably with Karen's input, a little bit, just a brief overview. I actually went through it and highlighted all of the areas that we received. So basically, it's a review of our policy and how it stands and how it meets different standards that are out there. And we're doing really well. We have a really great score. We have all of the required things, but there are some areas of our health and wellness policy that could use some improvement. And so what I thought was, as we head into summer, I'm not sure if there are meetings in the summer of this committee or not. And then as we head back into the new school year, maybe this could kind of give us some direction with things that we could look at to change in the policy. So again, you could get a score of 0, 1, or 2. And Karen, please feel free to step in if I mess anything up. And I highlighted the areas that were 0s and 1s, just for us to look over. I'm going to share my screen with you guys now so you can see it. But then again, I also sent you the link so you can look at it on your own as well and just kind of think about something that you could do or any ideas that you might want to consider for future work on the policy this summer or into next year, since I know we're already approaching the end of the school year. Oh, let's see. I cannot share my screen. Is Mike still here?
Amy, I can pull it up if you want and share my
Okay.
screen.
Perfect,
Well,
that'd be great.
Yeah, it's Amy, that's because you're not the host.
Oh, great.
And I'm actually the host. I can probably make you a co-host and then you should be able to share your screen.
Okay,
Okay.
whichever way.
I just have to figure it out. More, Amy, more, make a co-host. Yes, I want to make you a co-host. Okay, you should be able to do it now.
Thank you. I feel very special. Okay.
I offered so that Mike doesn't have to sit in the meeting that I could host it. I have no
That's
problem
fine.
with that.
Yes, that's when I was panicking. I had sent the wrong committee meeting minutes and was sending the other committee meeting minutes. All right, so I'm just going to go through really briefly. And again, I did highlight it to make it really easy to pick out. There are a few different sections of the scorecard that we have, nutrition education, standards for nutrition programs and school meals, on and on down to physical education, what is available after school in the building for after school programs, wellness promotion and marketing, communication. There are a bunch of different areas. And again, we're doing, and Karen can correct me if I'm wrong, we're doing well on all of the required parts of the policy. We have a good score for that, but there are some areas that we could improve. The one is we've got some, but we could have more. And the 0 is essentially there is not evidence of it in the policy as it stands currently. Is that correct, Karen?
Right, that's correct. So these scores, though, are around the language of the policy, just to be clear, not whether the schools are actually,
Right.
doing these things. So that's the other piece. I think we started to talk about it, Amy, but I know many of the members on this committee are very familiar with the checklist that we would give out to schools to ask them whether they're meeting the standard, exceeding it, or whether they need some support and improvement. And then it asks to what are the things you're doing well and what do you need to focus on. So this year is probably not the year to do that. It's just required that you monitor and assess implementation, but I just wanted to make that clear. This is actually just what the language of the policy says.
Right.
Yeah.
And would that survey be well, I have you here, part of the school report that is filed every year, or is that separate?
No, this is just something Rhode Island Healthy Schools Coalition developed as a self-survey. There's a federal requirement that you do assess it, but that's not part of the RIDE annual school report. Those are just pertinent to Rhode Island regulations. So actually having this committee and regularly meeting, that would be on it. And then some of the other things about PE health minutes and others would be part of that report.
Okay. I don't know if you all want me to go over all
Amy,
of
it's
Yes.
Deb Malcolm. Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine.
I was
Please do.
I was able to peruse earlier, and one of the thoughts I had was moving forward, especially with the nutritional education piece, that perhaps for a future meeting we should invite Shauna Spillane, and with Corinne, that might help us develop language to put into our policy, because I know some of these things have gone on at some of the schools, and how can we implement into the policy, but not speaking for Shauna and Sodexo kind of thing. Like, how can we embed it in there moving forward to improve on the policy?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So I'm just going to be real honest here about how the scoring is done, because I did it and score them for the districts in the state. But that particular provision, what you have currently in your policy is a bullet that says nutritional themes will be integrated across the curriculum into daily lessons as appropriate. And so that's why that received a 1, because it's not saying that that's required or how that's happening. So that's an example, Deb, of how that would score a 2. In order for it to score a 2 is that it needs to be very clear and required, and that there's a plan for implementation. So there could be some of the examples of some of the things that are done regularly, like food service, doing nutrition education within classes, etc. Or not just having as appropriate. It's really just saying that it will happen, that
So
it is being.
right. So the language of it.
It's the language of it, yeah.
And the other one too, and it's a little hard to see, but addresses agriculture and the food system. So again, I don't even think that's even, so a 0 is, it's not even in the policy.
Correct. And there are some, I can give you, there are some districts that include a bullet around and I know you have the school gardens. They encourage school gardens that will give experiential learning for students about the local food system and about the origins of food and how food is grown, something like that. That would give a 1 or a 2 on that. And Amy, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting, but I just want to ask one question, because when we're looking at this, it says it's for the policy 51415, and I know that's the current approved school committee policy, but I know you have some recommended changes, right, to the policy that I
Yes.
had even given Jen. Okay, I just want to make sure, because some of those were required to meet compliance with federal regulation. So just wanted to make sure those were all being captured.
Yeah, that goes to policy committee, should be next month.
Okay, good. Oh, that's right. We did that in a previous meeting. Okay, good.
Yes.
So
Yep.
that should be all set. Got it.
Yes.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
don't know if you want to rescore that before we would come up with any other ideas once that policy
And I
is there.
wonder, I can't see because I wasn't sure. I was trying to pull up mine to see, but I'm, let me just see if I can look here. There were just a few of them that I recommended were ones that have the capital icon. So if
Right.
you see in each of these sections, if you had a 0 or a 1, I recommended changes so that you would be fully compliant. And
I was going to say, I didn't see any capitals when I was highlighting.
so maybe this
Oh,
one,
well,
maybe
there's a few
this
that I
was a
don't see
new
the icon.
one. Which one is that?
I was going to say, there are a few that I don't see the icon. I just see a square for some reason. So it's
Oh,
possible
yeah.
that's not okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Even with my glasses on, I can't see this fully. And I'm not sure. Maybe this is one that I did a scoring with those recommended language changes. I'm not altogether sure. But here's one I'm just going to mention, and you tell me. I know it's probably, I don't know if that's some of your schools because of your town and where the schools are located, but under the PEPA section, so that's the section 4, physical activity,
Yep.
physical education. The final provision, number 16, is district addresses active transport, which they call safe routes to school for all K-12 students who live within walkable, bikeable distance. And that has a 0. And I don't know if I know in many communities, certainly now I think about with kids, especially during this time of COVID, being outside is safer. I've been thrilled to see so much more bike riding, and I know at my local schools, but the suburb that I live in isn't as spread out as Cumberland. And I didn't know about at your schools if there were a lot of bikers and walkers, or if that was something that, you'd want to encourage and include in the policy. And then maybe there's, a number of programs. Actually, one we had just in our, we just included it again in our May e-news that went out 2 days ago, which is a Rhode Island road safety program for elementary, typically 5th graders. And now it's just done on video, but about bike safety, wearing a helmet, knowing the rules of the road. But I don't know, that was something that jumped out at me because I think that, it's certainly a healthy practice. We like to see kids biking or walking as a way to start their day. But again, at your schools, I know some of them, I don't know how many kids, you have, or if you feel that's, there are safe routes for those who are in walkable, bikeable distance, if that's ever been addressed.
Can I add to that? I know in the past other schools have done the walking bus, and they've had organized things like that at certain schools. I think Community was one, the walking school bus where they all went to. I know at Ashton, because of the safety of Scott Road, they don't allow any walkers. So it's difficult.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think a few schools it's not safe.
I guess that's my question. Like when we write the policy to gain a more like a higher score, would it be that you just prove that you're promoting it in places where it is safe, but knowing that there are schools where it's not safe?
Right, exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll just say right now that, do not look at this exercise as a way to improve a score. It shouldn't be looked at that way. They're really, I don't think I've ever seen one that has 100, and I don't think that should be the goal of this. Not all of these. Obviously, you have to make sure you meet those that are required by federal or state regulation. But these others are considered best practice. This one, as you see, it even says who live within walkable, bikeable distance. But there are schools are, sometimes on roads where it's not safe. Now I don't think there's funding right now, but at times there has been funding for infrastructure, for sidewalks to be built, et cetera, in communities where maybe it hasn't been. But totally agree, Christy. It would only be for those schools where it would be appropriate to promote that. But for those places where it is, to ensure that students know what the safe routes are, understand the rules of the road. So when they're in contact with, a vehicle, or that they wear helmets, et cetera, that the school is supporting that. Having a bike rack so that they could, safely lock their bike, that kind of thing. But certainly not in places where it's, it's not safe.
I've brought in outside educational opportunities from AAA for the pre-K, K1, and I basically left it at 1. I don't think I did second grade on bike safety and road safety. But as far as implementing the other half of that, I can't really do that at Ashton. But I know other elementary schools have. And same with the agriculture, with the high school growing their own gardens. I don't know if they're implementing it in the nutrition education portion, but I think a lot of it is just not on paper, but I have a feeling it's all being done. It's just a matter of getting it in the policy.
Very good point, Christy. That's true. A lot of times that sometimes when people go through this exercise, they say, hey, why did we score 0? We're doing this. And again, that's why I mentioned this isn't about whether you're doing it. It's about the language in the policy. When you do that survey that you've done on the years when all of the schools get it, then you're actually looking at, are we doing what our policy says? So if that's something you then want to include in it, and the reason why you would include it in the policy is, not to get a better score, but just to sort of as a statement of, of priority, right? That the district, so even if a principal were to leave, one of the schools who may not be as, let's say, wellness focused as our wonderful principals, are now, Nydia and Deb at their schools, and might say, oh, we're not going to do that, that it would be, well, it's in the policy. This is a belief of our district. This is something that we're promoting. So that's really the purpose, put it in writing. And then if parents or community members look at the policy, again, they're seeing what the priorities are of the district in the areas around health and wellness. So that would be the reason to have it in writing.
Yeah, I was surprised to see some of the things that were not in there or were a lower score, just realizing, oh, that's not written in the policy. So I think some of the things will be easier to address in the policy, and some things might give us some, ideas for what we can work on. Maybe there are some things that we can do for example, the PEPA 16, with safe routes for some of the schools. And maybe there are outside resources that we can bring in for other things, addresses, I'm just looking, wellness promoting and marketing down in here. So that addresses strategies to support employee wellness. And thinking, hey, we're kind of looking at that right now. So that's something that we could write into the policy in the future, really setting something up. But I think some of it is very doable and should be in the policy and isn't. So I'm kind of excited on a weird dorky level to kind of work with the policy and see what else we can get in there and kind of elevate it even more. And so, yeah, but
yeah. Amy, I had a thought. Should we,
Yes.
you shared this with all of us, and thank you for that. Because it was very interesting to go through to see, and I had a lot of those aha moments like, oh, we're doing that, but it's not necessarily in the policy. Is it possible we could break it up and people just take sections of it and just write down notes so that the next time we come together, we can, do some of those revisions in the policy to look at those pieces that were not explicit in and try to revamp that even going into the summer. That was just the thought I had.
yeah, that could be, what teacher doesn't want to do more work in the summer? I thought that could be a good, that would be a really good project. And everyone's going to know different things too. For example, Eric might know the physical education instruction for all high school students. I don't have the knowledge what that time is. There are different things, and Christy might know more about walking to school and outside resources. So I think, I don't know that I would want to assign, because I feel like you guys would do a much better job choosing which section and you have some familiarity with in your schools, because I admittedly have zero familiarity with a lot of this. But yeah, I think that's a great idea if everyone could kind of look and pick a section to look at. And next month we're supposed to have school meetings anyways, not a district meeting. And then we head into summer. So it might actually be the perfect time, because even at your school meeting, in your individual school committee, you could say, this came up. Do we have this in our schools? What is our belief? This is what the policy says right now, or doesn't say. So that might be a good way to start it, and then bring that back to the whole committee.
Amy, can I make another suggestion?
Mm-hmm.
Just to
Absolutely.
add to that? So if I could, and I'm wondering, I'll send it to you, and then maybe you can have it put into the Google folder, or do the same thing, email it out. And that would just be a blank survey. So I think it's important to know the difference. A 0 is a 0. It's not referenced at all, but the difference between a 1 and a 2. And where I think this is important, for example, on the PEPA, if you go down to that section, where it has the minutes. Let me see here. I'm looking at mine. This would be the 4, 5, and 6.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Addresses time per week of physical education instruction for all elementary students. 1 is for all middle school students and for high school students. And you can see there's only a 1. And so you all may be saying, and certainly PE teachers, why are we getting a 1? We address time per week. We have a law around that, and we do. The reason why that has a 1 rather than a 2 is that this national evaluative tool is actually using the nationally recommended minutes, and that actually is 225 minutes for middle school students and high school students, and for elementary students, it's 150 minutes a week. So we have a state law that requires 100 minutes of PE/health. So it's great we have a law. There are many states in this country that there are PEs being taught by non-certified people, or it's not even required. So that's great that we have that. And I know all of the students, are getting physical education, but the reason why it's a 1, and I think, if could the district get a 2, you'd have to, in order, again, this is just the survey that's using what's considered gold standard. It is a nationally referenced survey, but those are what the nationally recommended minutes are. So that's why it's a 1. So so I could send you a copy of all of the survey with the scoring, because they give examples, like here's an example of a 1, here's an example of a 2. And that might be helpful with people when they're thinking, gee, would we want, what language would we want to add in order to improve it, which would be a 2. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds great and very helpful. So, Ms. Malcolm, what do you think the best way to do this would be? Just have everyone let me know within a week or 2 which section they would like to work on?
Sure. I mean, and you said it, we all have our strengths. So, if people want to identify, hey, Cumberland Hill will take on this section, Ashton will take on this section. Maybe we can reach out to Shauna to peruse, what her staff can do. I think so. And then hopefully we've got all the various sections covered. We can meet with our individual teams and share that out, and then start the revision process.
Yeah. It sounds, there's no time frame on this, and it's certainly not going to be done quickly. I'd like it to be done well rather than quickly, so yeah. All right, so that sounds good. So I will look for that from you, Karen, and then once I have that, I'll send it out to everyone on the committee. Does that sound good? Okay. All right, so moving on from that, the next item, last item on the agenda, other than public comments and adjournment, is useful communication tools for sharing information with parents once we have it. And I know that, there you are. You had brought this up as an idea to speak about today. You did.
I did.
You did.
Huh. Huh. This
I
is
think
my
we-
18th meeting of the day, Amy.
Oh,
Useful communication tools for sharing information with parents. I have to be honest. I'm a little humbled right now because I'm not quite sure where I was going with that.
I
Maybe
think you-
sharing what this committee does. I honestly, I'm at a loss.
I thought you mentioned something about putting together like a guidebook that
Oh,
could be.
that's right. Thanks, Teresa.
Oh,
Yeah, we had talked about putting together like almost like a pamphlet or something for families.
yes, a brochure.
That incorporated, useful tools, information, the role and responsibilities of the wellness committee, not only at the district level, but at the school level. And what would be the best way to disseminate that information, whether it's a hard copy or, each elementary school's weekly update. Is that something we could share? So just how can we get more information out to families? Kind of thing. I love the idea of a brochure. I think at this point, parents are so saturated with information that perhaps that's something we want to look at developing and sharing out come fall time, and but just kind of brainstorming right now. And I'm only saying that because even, back to school on Monday and having Monday an early release day, we had parents who were like, I didn't know it was an early release day. So I think they're just inundated with information right now, and we kind of want to start fresh.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, where I was going with that. Thanks, Teresa.
And I will say inundated with paper as well. So many
Yes.
papers coming home, especially at the elementary level. I can't keep track of anything. So something online would be good. We have the website. We have the Health and Wellness website, so we could also put something on there. It could be easy to come
I know
up with something.
Cheryl Vaughn at Community School utilizes s'mores.
S'mores.
The s'mores format, which I think is very user-friendly, very fun, colorful, engaging. So that might be something we want to look at for sharing out for families.
Okay. I was gonna say I know a bunch of things. But I do a lot of marketing, but not this type. So, Karen, did you?
I'll just send you to, on our website, we actually have examples of communication tools that other districts have developed. Some of them are older
Okay.
now, but some of them are brochures. I mean, again, just to give you ideas, as I said, some of them are old, but there's a number of things that they've put together to kind of make it positive and get to the high points rather than like sending out the policy, at the beginning of the year. So I'll send a link to that and you could look at it or share that.
That's great. Now, there are normally members of the community that are also on this committee, correct? Or have there been before? Parents or
Yeah.
something? Okay. So maybe we could send something out about that as well to try and get some community members that can commit just for parent input.
And as our
I can-
schools meet, we might have, sorry, Donna, as our schools meet, we might have parents who are part of our school
Perfect.
committees who might want to be part of the district committee as well.
Yep. I can talk about this more as I was doing some nurses newsletters 1 or 2 school years, and I did use s'mores, and I had no idea how to set up a newsletter. It's very user friendly. Anybody can do it. But there is a fee for it. So I think you can use it for a little while, and then at some point there's a fee to continue using s'mores. That's the only problem with s'mores. But other than that, it was great.
I wonder if the district has something, set up an account for a newsletter program or anything. Deb shaking her head no. Okay. We'll figure that out. It's not in the budget.
Not that I know of.
That'd be good to know. Okay. So that's great. So Karen, I will look that over. We can send that out too for anyone who has other ideas, what we can work on. And go back to your schools next month, see if you have members that want to join our committee from the community. And if anyone has ideas for how things could be shared, I think that's a really good way to take it. And hopefully we can kind of head into summer with some good ideas, and I can get work done over the summer. I'm happy to do that. Unfortunately, I got the, not unfortunately, I got the Rhode Island Healthy Initiative, that the newsletter that you guys sent out after I did the agenda, but there were some really good ideas on there that I would love to talk about, but I didn't think I could change the agenda. So I might be sending out a few of the things that I read about in the email. I don't know if you guys get that in your emails as well, but there were some interesting parts of it that I thought maybe the district could do. So.
Amy, can I not mention them in public comment?
Oh, you
I don't
totally
know if
can.
it's-
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So,
In fact, yeah, we're there. Public comments, go.
so I don't, yeah, I mean, and I can't share my screen, right? We don't have that. No. Yeah. But if you send it out after, just saying if people want to open it, there's a couple of things. One is a farm to school grant. It's meant to be a real quick turnaround time, not heavy on the application, but if you have some kind of an idea, we had funds available from a foundation funder. And so it's anything in, it could be in a gardening. I know, where's Christy? There she is. She's done some gardening at her school. You know, if you have some ideas for education, even like at this point, virtual field trips, you know, anything to do growing in the classroom, all grades K to 12, and we'd be looking for them to be implemented even, you know, starting now summer and then through December of 2021. So we'll be reviewing and giving out 3 grants of $1,500 each. So if anyone has an idea, there's that included. And then just a couple of things, because I know some of the elementary schools, you guys have participated in the AHA postcard contest over the years. And this one is about kindness. And so if there's health teachers might be interested in that, or even classroom teachers, you know, I'm thinking June 25th, that's like going to be, I don't know. I'm feeling like, gosh, it's going to be a slog to the end, right? It's a long, so if there was something a little, you know, fun for the kids, that maybe these are ideas. And the other one that we were talking about with the bike that's in here is that Rhode to bicycle safety. Again, probably it's elementary focused, but in a PE class, if, you know, lessons to, again, bring something else in, that's included in here. So there's a few other things, but take a look at it, and if those sound of interest.
Karen, on just a little news on the gardening front. So I learned a lot when I did that grant and we got the garden at my school. And when we did it, we built it with the grant money, and we had a teacher sort of tending to it for the last, I don't even know how many years it's been at this point. What I learned is that everything wants to grow in the summer when no one's around. So that was really hard. The URI gardeners of whatever they're called, that's really bad that I don't know that name, but I don't.
Master gardeners.
Thank you. Yes, they would come every year, and we got our soil tested, and we got like high marks on the design of our garden. It was, you know, it was a raised garden bed, and we made it so that like wheelchair access, but that could get in there and all of that stuff. The unfortunate thing is when we built it, they told us we could not use pressure treated wood because they were fearful that the chemicals that they put in pressure treated wood would go into our garden. So we built it with regular old wood, and it is probably going to need to be torn down this summer because it's completely rotten and kind of unfixable. So I learned kind of a lot. It was fun while it lasted, but I think we may not have a garden. I don't think we're going to have a garden this year, even though we already planted all of the seeds and have all of the little plants ready to go. I think we're going to give them to kids to take home because we sort of hit the wall with our garden. So there was a lot learned. I probably would do it differently. But if you're planning on applying for that grant, like, we probably need to think a little bit about how to implement that. It's just tough, and it's tough to do it because it's like all summer long and there are no kids to help, and so.
Yeah, that's always been, I know the
Mhm.
URI school garden initiative, they call it, then when they have their conference, that's always a topic, right? The growing season here, most of it, right? I mean, into the fall too, but it's like the summer. And so, you know, some of the things I've heard, one of the best, I think, and again, it depends on where your school is located, but there was one, an urban school, a middle school that actually has a really cool urban garden, and there's neighbors there. And they were like, you can have everything that grows if you weed this and water this in the summer. And so that kind of worked because the neighbors were like, oh, you know, we didn't have to plant or pay for this, you know, and they get to harvest it. And it does get hard because typically, you're right, Christy, it sort of often starts as a pet project of a person who has a passion for it. And then when that person either just, you know, their time commitment changes, their schedule, they don't have a kid in the school anymore or whatnot, it's a challenge to always find, you know, parents. Some schools have it on their PTO. They have it as like a board position, if that makes sense, like with other things, school garden, so that it's like they're always recruiting for, you know, the new school garden. I'm gonna ask with this new statewide network that we've developed around Farm to School. We've got a great school garden. She's a landscape architect and has done lots of school gardens. I'm gonna ask her about that, pressure treated and what, because I agree that that's a little discouraging, right? When you go through all that and then after a few years you go, oh, this is rotted, like we can't use this anymore. So let me see what I can find out and I'll let you know. But I appreciate that feedback because I know you were an enthusiastic and really got it done all those years ago. But this could be if anyone wanted to do something in their classroom as well. You guys had at BF Norton, they had a hydroponic.
Yeah, the green machine, didn't they? The high school did.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, you have the green machine. Yeah, at the high school.
Yeah.
That's like unbelievable. But there was like this small, it was called a tower garden. And I believe it was BF Norton that had it right in their foyer.
Right in the hallway. Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah, right.
It's very
Yeah, so that's something like any of those things, you know, or just around, or you wanted to do something in classrooms around taste testings or getting parents, you know, again, a little hard right now and even in the fall, but, you know, having some kind of an activity, working with Shauna, you know, anything, really anything that someone had an idea about. We're really pretty open. We didn't want to just, you know, fixate on something narrow like an outdoor school garden. So.
Great. All right. Any other public comments? I don't think anyone from the public is here, just us. I would like to take a second and thank you all for being here. I know it's Teacher Appreciation Week. I'll extend that to nurse appreciation and counselor appreciation and administration appreciation. And thank you for all that you do for our students, especially this year, more than any. So you are very, very loved and appreciated. Please do not doubt that. But that is it for our agenda for today. So next month, we will not have a district meeting. We'll have the scheduled individual school committee meetings. You can meet with your school committee, and I will send out an email about that. I will also send out information for the WellSat scorecard, so you can look that over and think of an area that you would like to work on and let me know. And also the email from the Rhode Island Healthy Schools Commission, so people can see the ideas that were presented there as well. And maybe we can get to work on some of those grants that are available, get something fun in our schools to end the year. But if anyone doesn't have anything else, then I just need a motion to adjourn. Y'all want to stay here all night?
I'll motion.
Ms. Emery, motion to adjourn. I just need a second.
I'll second.
Second, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No. All right. Thank you all so much. I'll see you